different agencies. They were out there conducting an investigation in the area of the 5,000 block of Galway Drive. They were engaged by active gunfire from a subject. So it would appear that this is one person that is involved with this. Multiple law enforcement officers, they haven't said specifically whether U.S. Marshal, CMPD, or whoever, have been struck by gunfire. They've been taken to hospitals. Police have been out on the roadways shutting down traffic in order to allow those ambulances to get there as quickly as possible.
Our chief investigative reporter, Nick Oxner, is joining us now. Looks like, Nick, where are you right now? You where they're going to have a staging area later?
Yeah, Jamie, we are at the staging area just across the parking lot from where you heard our colleague Erica Lunsford brief you. And let's first look up to the sky to the extent that we can. I want to see photojournalist Allison Fields here can get a shot of these helicopters that are circling around the scene. Again, certainly gives you that active sense. But Jamie, while I was working my way over here, traffic all over town, as you can imagine, very dense. It took us about 30 minutes to get what would normally be a 15 or 20-minute drive. But as I was driving over here, I've been working the phones all afternoon, trying to get a better understanding of what exactly went on. So we know from police officially that this was some sort of U.S. Marshal Service out here. We know that that Marshal Service task force was a fugitive task force. They were executing a warrant, as what my multiple sources, law enforcement sources, tell me. And that task force is made up of officers and deputies from around the area. And so what we've been doing here is talking with law enforcement leadership from around the area, checking to see what personnel was involved here. Are there folks okay? Obviously, this is a very fluid situation, a lot of information coming in, and it's our job now that we're here at the staging area, to figure out what is factual and accurate that we can tell you. But we know that task force wasn't just federal agents. We know that it had components from across the viewing area. We know the scene remains very active. And again, we're at the staging area off the plaza, but the actual scene is way over my shoulder here, quite a bit away. As you've seen all afternoon, the roads shut down. I can tell you that firsthand. We had to take 85 and down the plaza to get here. So very fluid situation that's impacting folks here in Charlotte, federal agencies, as well as other local law enforcement agencies who are part of that task force. As soon as we get more information confirmed, we'll update you. For now, though, reporting live here at the CMPD staging area, Nick Oxner, WBTV, on your side.
All right, thanks, Nick. And again, we don't know specifically when this incident first began to take place exactly how many officers were there on the scene at this location on Galway Drive. We're going to have to assume right now, since we haven't been told specifically, that it was at a house that was approached by at least one U.S. Marshal, the U.S. Marshal Fugitive Task Force, CMPD police officers. That is not at all unusual for U.S. Marshals to be serving warrants. It's not unusual for CMPD to accompany U.S. Marshals to a situation like this. We've got a map here. We're going to show you exactly where this is happening. You can see this Galway Drive right now. It is in East Charlotte. It's not far off Shamrock Drive or East Harris Boulevard, not too far from there. It is just south of I-85. But right now, you can see the plaza, that other highlighted road just above Galway Drive there. That is the plaza, which Nick was just talking about. They've had to take multiple different routes to get to the scene where the staging is taking place.
Nick's reporting sort of connects some of the dots, I think, right, yes, John, that we were trying to piece together here. What was the reason for them to be in this neighborhood this afternoon? And we kind of wondered, was it executing of an arrest warrant of some sort? And that's apparently what has happened there today. And I think a lot of officers would probably tell you those are some of the, the scariest kind of situations, the most dangerous types of situations that they can deal with. They try to take every precaution possible to approach a home like that when they think it's most safe to do so. But again, they don't know what's on the other side of that door oftentimes, and obviously today they were met with gunfire. Numerous officers have been wounded, and again, as we pointed out several times, I wish we could give you more information. We just don't know the extent of those injuries. We don't know how many law enforcement officers have been shot, and as Nick was pointing out as well, this is a task force that is made up of officers from a number of different agencies. So even which agencies they were all involved with, we don't know at this point, and we wish we could tell you more because we know you want more as well. Nick is at that staging area where presumably at some point this afternoon or perhaps later this evening, depending how long this all goes on, we will then be getting some sort of formal update from CMPD about all that has transpired here this afternoon. But obviously these are some of the video clips we've seen from that neighborhood there this afternoon. You see medic, you see the swarm of CMPD cruisers. If you were anywhere around Uptown or between there and East Charlotte this afternoon, you got a sense immediately that something really big was going on because there were officers swarming everywhere. Nick was pointing out the helicopters are in the sky as well, and they are tracking this situation. We've seen officers at various intersections around the community right now. As I peek over my shoulder at Interstate 277, it appears those officers have now completely left that area, so hopefully some of the traffic coming into Uptown now is going to be freed up this afternoon. But that has been one of sort of the side effects of all that has transpired in East Charlotte today. Has just been the traffic mess that we have seen around the area today. So if you know somebody who's stuck in it and they're wondering what's going on, you can tell them obviously it's been a very frightening situation. So this is a very active situation that we're following right now. And another one of our reporters is Dedrick Russell. John.
And Dedrick is at Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Headquarters right now. And Dedrick, are you getting any information from there? Are they releasing any details whatsoever?
Well, John, I just contacted the PIO from CMPD, and that person tells me that that there's no one here available to speak right now, but they did tell me that the chief is at the scene, and if there's anything updates, it will happen at the staging area there. Now, we just seen some officers just coming in and out. Don't know where they were, but we're here just in case if they bring a suspect in or if there's anyone to talk to us about what is happening and how these officers are dealing with the situation that is happening right now. Again, the PIO tells me that there is nothing to report, that they are here right now, but the chief of police is at the scene taking care of the officers and there to answer any questions. But we are going to keep guard here at CMPD headquarters to let you know any movement, any activity that will happen if they bring a suspect in or if there are any officers who are coming in to be relieved to get more briefings and things like that. We will, of course, let you know when we find out something. And the PIO, that I am in contact with the PIO, and the PIO tells me that when there is something to say, that they will reach out to me and let me know what information I need to give to you and the public concerning this terrible incident that's happening right now.
All right, Dedrick Russell live from Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Headquarters. And again, we've gotten some new information from Dedrick in that Police Chief Johnny Jennings is there at the scene on Galway Drive where this is happening, working with the officers there, checking in and seeing exactly what the situation is. So that is the new bit of information we've been able to gather, even though information coming in right now is very slight.
We know the chief always responds when there's officer-involved shooting. Certainly in this case, it is his officers, or at least officers from our area who have been wounded in this here. Again, you see numerous law enforcement officers shot. That's the banner headline there on your screen. An exact number and extent not known at this point. But John, you know, we've talked to...
Because we have a short day today, and he told me, hey, you heard those shotguns? I was like, yeah, I heard them. But suddenly after we finished, we heard like the police sirens coming. I was like, what happened? And I started seeing like 15 police cars driving, like doom, doom, doom. I was like, oh, something is happening. It's really bad. And I told him, let's go and take a ride. And we went to make a trip around the neighborhood, and we were close to the what is it? Kindergarten. And we heard, like he said, like more than 100 gunshots, like boom, 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 boom. And we were like, hey, you know what? We better take off home because it seems like really, really dangerous. And we went to a Shannon House, the traffic light at Shannon House, and everything was blocked. And we decided to come this way, and we are here waiting to see what happened. Just.
This kind of seemed not real yet. Does it seem like this only happens in the movies?
Being honest with you, never happened this before in this area. Never expected to see so many police officers wounded, so many cars. Never. Just like you said, just in the movies.
this is a pretty cool area. I live.
We heard Dedrick Russell just a moment ago talking to the public information officer at CMPD, saying they will release information just as soon as they can. They also made reference that that would be done at the media staging area, which is near where the scene here is happening this afternoon. And we saw Nick Oxner just a few moments ago from that area. And honestly, I didn't see a police officer there at this point. So obviously we are still some time away from getting any sort of update, which makes sense because we also understand the SWAT team is still on scene there trying to negotiate an end to this shootout that has happened here this afternoon in East Charlotte right now. So obviously hard to update us when the scene is still active and we don't know all of the details, and they have been trying to get wounded officers out of that area here this afternoon. You're seeing just a couple of the video clips that we have seen from the area here this afternoon from some viewers. Steven Switzer sending in this clip. It's a short clip, but you can again see, gives you a sense of the presence, gives you a sense of this neighborhood that we are talking about, sort of an old school Charlotte neighborhood in East Charlotte, where you got big lawns, big trees, and some nice homes. And obviously this whole area has been just damaged today by gunfire and officers in that area and wounded officers, and that's the frightening part. John, you were mentioning, obviously, you know, your son works for the department, and as I mentioned a couple times earlier, I'm thinking about all those spouses and loved ones of officers this afternoon who are just hoping to hear the same news that you got, you know, that your son's okay and that other officers' families can get that news as well. And sadly, we know a few are going to get some news here today that they've at least been wounded. Yeah. And that's the sobering part. There's a lot of conversation about policing in this country, but this is the dangerous side of it. They don't know what they're facing on every call that they make. Why they were going to this house, we don't know the exact reason. We just know it was a Marshal task force, a U.S. Marshals task force, the fugitive task force that was executing an arrest warrant in this community when those officers were greeted by gunfire. WBTV's chief investigative reporter Nick Oxner is back with us here today. Nick, you learning anything new?
Yeah, Jamie, what we're doing right now is monitoring the CMPD Twitter feed. That's actually the way that they're keeping us informed right now. There are some CMPD and Charlotte Fire PIOs here at the staging area, but as you were talking about there, the scene is very much still active, and that's the latest information that we've gotten in here, is that CMPD saying there is still active gunfire as of just 3 or 4 minutes ago on the scene, and that would explain why we're being kept so far away. Again, we're here at the staging area, we're off the plaza, and we're quite a ways away. We can't see the scene. We can see the helicopter circling overhead at the scene, but we can't actually see anything. And again, that's because CMPD, as of just 3 or 4 minutes ago, still tweeting out that there is active gunfire happening at the scene. So to reset and recap what you guys have been talking about all afternoon, the reason we're here is because a U.S. Marshals task force, fugitive task force, was trying to execute a warrant at a house not far away from where we are off the plaza. Over, we'll generally broadly say the Plaza Shamrock area, maybe a little east of that in East Charlotte. That's when we know gunfire was exchanged. We know that there was a number of law enforcement that have come to the scene. CMPD, there was the Marshals Task Force made up of officers and deputies from agencies around the area, not just here in Charlotte. And that's when we know multiple officers have been injured. We don't have those details yet. And we now know from CMPD of just a few minutes ago that that gunfire continues. So very much active, very much ongoing. We're waiting for any cues and information updates here at the media staging area, which is quite a ways away. It doesn't look like that's coming yet because the situation very fluid. In the meantime, we're continuing to work the phones, talk with sources. I'm in touch with multiple people, staying apprised of the situation. And so far, we want to be responsible in the information we bring you. We don't want to bring you rumor or speculation, and that's why we're holding back a little bit and waiting for confirmed information from Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police. Jamie, John?
Our Nick Oxner there live on the scene right now, again, giving us a little bit of the color here as we try to understand exactly what has happened here this afternoon. But as Nick pointed out, the important part, this is still an active scene.
Very active scene, and we do know that Police Chief Johnny Jennings is there on the scene along with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officers. I've been looking too, Jamie, to know whether or not we may have seen any Mecklenburg County sheriff's deputies or anyone from the sheriff's office out there, and they may be. We just don't see that in any of this video here because we believe this video we're looking at right now is not actually at the specific scene where this has taken place, where the gunfire has originated from. We don't know to the extent of, we do know that gunfire has occurred. We don't know how much of that involves the person that the U.S. Marshals apparently were out there to serve the warrant from. We don't know multiple police officers, how many officers may be involved in returning fire to that situation there. There are, you know, guidelines and protocol when it comes to being involved in active gunfire or a situation like this for police officers. And so, again, the details about what's happened exactly at the scene there are still very sketchy right now. We just don't have a lot except to say that multiple law enforcement officers have been shot.
You heard Nick describe it, right? The U.S. Marshal Fugitive Task Force. I'm just looking at the U.S. Marshals website right now, and they do describe what these local fugitive task forces are all about. It says they currently lead 56 of those fugitive task forces right now across the country, the majority of them full-time efforts. However, additional task forces are formed on an ad hoc basis in response to specific cases. Funding for these task forces often granted through initiatives such as high-intensity drug trafficking area, organized crime and drug enforcement task forces, Project Safe Neighborhoods. So which umbrella this was falling under, obviously we don't know, but these task forces fairly common across the country, and there's one here this afternoon that was being executed, an arrest warrant, when all of this happened.
All right, we understand Ron Lee is there at the scene or nearby, and he is joining us now live. So Ron, if you would tell us exactly where you are, what you've seen, and what you've heard.
Hey, John, I'm on Galloway and Bankston. We're probably a block, maybe two away from the actual scene. This is as close as we're going to get. CMPD have the entire area shut down at this point, but this is one route that I was able to get in. I actually tried to get in on the other side of Galloway and was told that it was a very active scene. Bullets were still being exchanged, so we had to remove ourselves as quickly as possible, hence the bulletproof vest that I'm wearing right now. I was able to wrap around to the other side, get in as close as you can see. Just behind me, you see dozens and dozens of police cars, fire trucks, emergency crews out there. Everybody is out here on scene hoping for the best, praying for the best for these officers that were involved. I have been talking with some witnesses down here on the scene. While nobody actually saw the shooting, I talked to two specifically. One of them told me he heard at least 100 rounds fired, one after another. As a matter of fact, some of them were being overlaid, so it sounds like they could have been exchanging gunfire, but we do not have that confirmed at this point. Another witness told me it was like World War III down here. He's never seen anything like it. This is just outside of the Devonshire area, a very quiet type of a neighborhood. I'm very well familiar of it. I used to live here several years ago, very family oriented, and this is something that you certainly would not believe that would happen in your own neighborhood. We're going to remain on scene, try to get some more information from CMPD, but the facts right now are few and far between. They're not talking. They're still engaged in this situation, trying to bring this to a peaceful resolution, and we'll just kind of have to see and wait what happens. Pray for the best. In East Charlotte, I'm Ron Lee, WBTV, on your side.
Ron, before you go real quick, I think I noticed a state highway patrol car going past you as you were coming on the air. What agencies have you seen? Have there been others besides CMPD?
I've seen just about every agency you can imagine. Highway Patrol, I did see deputy sheriffs. CMPD is out here in force. It seems like there are dozens, if not more, officers out here. In a situation like this, and I've covered scenes like this before, they will flood the streets out here to get everything controlled and contained. Right now, just trying to keep the public safe at bay is the #1 priority. Obviously, they want to bring this to a successful and safe resolution. From this point forward, they don't want anybody else getting hurt, so they're going to bring in negotiators if there is still a barricaded person in that house. So we still have a long way to go, and it's going to affect this area for quite some time. If you have to be in the area, please avoid the area of Galloway specifically. You will not get anywhere near this scene as it is right now. So we'll go ahead and toss it back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Ron. And I think it's important to note, too, Jamie, you look at that vest that Ron is wearing there. CMPD officers are required to wear those vests, but you can see it doesn't cover your entire body. A lot of people might say, well, if they're wearing vests, how could they be wounded? As you can see there, it would be, you know, it protects the
vulnerable places still, right?
Very vulnerable places out there. So that's something to consider right there. And also, as far as firepower is concerned, a regular on-the-street police officer is carrying a Glock 17 or a 19, I'm not sure, 9mm pistol, and or maybe 40 caliber pistol. So, but they do have other weaponry with them, depending on who the officers are and what unit they may be with. The SWAT team, of course, armed with multiple different types of weapons that they can use in situations depending on what they are. We do know that for the most part, CMPD does try to resolve these situations without any gunfire, with any violent things taking place, but clearly this was not a situation that allowed that to happen. So there has been gunfire exchange. At what point they are, if they are able to even contact this person who has been firing at them, and some type of communication involved there to be able to try to talk them out of this situation, we don't know. According to CMPD, this involved a subject, which would imply that it's just one person who is contributing to this, who is causing this situation to happen here. We know multiple law enforcement officers were on the scene, though, and Jamie, as you were saying earlier, we don't know if anyone else might be in this home. We believe it is a home where this person is. We don't know whether any other people were in this home at the time when this all began to happen.
Yeah, Ron was kind of alluding to that, right? This is just sort of, like I said, one of those old school Charlotte neighborhoods, right? Lots of families, you got lots of old growth trees and yards, and people just enjoying a beautiful day here in the Carolinas this afternoon when all of this happened. We mentioned that they were executing an arrest warrant. It was the U.S. Marshal Fugitive Task Force that was spearheading this effort. And I mentioned there were 56 of these across the country. And in fact, one of those is based right here in Charlotte. It's the Carolinas Regional Fugitive Task Force. It began operations in January of 2018 under the Presidential Threat Protection Act of 2000. They have partnership agreements with more than 70 federal, state, and local agencies. They have 11 fully operational offices across the Carolinas, and they have been able to successfully apprehend more than 8,900 fugitives since the inception of that several years ago. So again, this is what started this afternoon. An arrest warrant was being executed in this East Charlotte neighborhood when gunfire met with those officers, and numerous have been wounded. Again, the exact number and the extent of those injuries still not known. Earlier this afternoon, if you're just getting home, we saw a number of the roads in and around the hospitals, access roads to those hospitals in the uptown area were being closed off so ambulances could get there quickly. You can see one medic in the ambulance there in the clip that you're watching right there on your screen right now. So still a developing situation. The SWAT team is there. A short time ago, we had reports from our Nick Auction that they were still hearing gunfire in that neighborhood. So still a very unsettling scene.
Very, and just within the last few minutes, CMPD tweeted out again on X, once again reiterating it is still an active scene and the roads in that area are still blocked. As Ron Lee was telling us, he's at least a block away from where this is all happening, and it was difficult getting to the spot where he is right now. So that is a very difficult situation out there as far as the traffic situation is concerned. Of course, our main concern is with those officers, the law enforcement officers who have been impacted by this, and their families too. That is the core of our concern right now. But we do want to let you know too that if you're going to be in that area, or you had planned to be in that area anytime soon, numerous roadways are blocked out there. It is very tough to get around there, even as far away as the plaza. Other areas of Charlotte too are seeing backups traffic-wise related to this situation.
They're easing somewhat on the interstates now this afternoon, because I-77, where it was blocked there, and 277, the John Belk Freeway there, exit 9, that since has reopened, so traffic is flowing once again back around 277 in both directions. You're still seeing a few residual backups in that area. Of course, we're also going to be heading into rush hour before too terribly long as well, so that's just going to add to the traffic here this afternoon. But no road blockages at the moment, but CMPD again was warning us that that could change, that they could close some of those roads again if need be, that they need to get perhaps some wounded to the hospital just as quickly as possible.
And I'm seeing part of Providence Road there. It appears that some of it, there's a slowdown there just outside of uptown there. But Jamie, here we have maybe a neighbor on the phone there, Tyler Wilson, I believe, who is on the phone with us right now, who lives in that neighborhood there. Tyler, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you tell us where you are in relation to where this is happening and what you've heard and seen?
Yeah, so there's 3 backyards that all come to an adjacent point. It's one of our backyards that adjoins our backyard. I was sitting here working, and next thing you know, I hear over a cop PA that, come out of the dogs coming, come out of the dogs coming. And after that, it was just chaos. There was shots ringing left and right. We had SWAT and U.S. Marshals set up snipers in our bedrooms. There was an officer got drugged by his arms through our house. I don't know if he was shot or if he injured himself. It's been pretty crazy. There was about 30 minutes where it was a straight shootout. It's been about an hour, and there's only been about 2 shots. So.
Are you still in your home right now, Tyler?
I heard on one of the detectives' radios that there was one suspect dead in the front yard and one in the house still shooting. So I don't know how true that is, but apparently there's 2 suspects, 1 dead.
Obviously unconfirmed information at this point. Tyler, are you still in your home right now?
Yeah, we're still in our home. There hasn't been but like maybe a shot or 2 in the last hour.
We are looking at some of this video right now, and I'm not sure if this is video you provided to us.
Yeah, that's our video on the news right now.
So walk us through this right here. This is sort of looking out your back door into the backyard.
This is minutes after it started. You can see the marshals running there. This was after they used our room as a staging.
Are they still in your home right now, Tyler?
No, they have pushed the perimeter back. They were too close, I guess, on their perimeter, so they pushed it back a little bit.
So walk me through how those officers came to be in your home. This was obviously.
I saw them running through our backyard and jumping our fence, so I opened the door and asked if they wanted. They had some officers already back here. I asked them if they wanted to use our house to go in and out. So yeah, it hasn't been many shots in the last hour, but there's still occasional shots every now and then.
Do you know, Tyler, you said it appeared that there was someone lying on the ground outside this house where this happened. Is that person still there lying in the yard? Do you know if they've been able to clear the scene whatsoever?
I can't see it. It's in the shootout house front yard. I just heard on the detective's radio there was 1 suspect dead in the front yard and another still in the house shooting.
What is your oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's there's no more police in our backyard. Like I said, I think they pushed the perimeter back.
I'm just, for you to open the door to these officers and they come rushing in, just take me into that, what that was like for you. It's just got to be unbelievable.
Yeah, this has been pretty wild. They told us to hunker down in the bathroom, so just been trying to come out every now and then and see what's going on.
And you said an officer went up to what, an upstairs bedroom then? Was acting?
No, it's a single-story house. They ran into the back bedroom right here to set up a post where you can see the house directly through the window.
And how many people live in your home? How many who live there, Tyler, are at the home right now?
There's 3 of us here.
3 of you there. And do you know any of the circumstances, this house where this is taking place, where this person is inside? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Do you know the neighbors there? You don't have to give any specific names and prefer that you not do that, but do you know what the circumstances are in regard to that house, who might be living there?
I do not know the people. They'll have occasional parties in the backyard every now and then, but other than that, it's pretty quiet around here.
Yeah, Tyler, describe your neighborhood. Our Ron Lee, one of our reporters, lives not too far from here. He describes it just as a quiet family neighborhood. Describe what it was like to be there.
Yeah, it's quiet. I mean, occasionally you'll hear some shots at night, but nothing in the direct neighborhood.
Had you, Tyler, before this all happened, did you have any sense whatsoever that someone at this home would be involved in a situation that would bring police to the area?
I do not. I have nothing on that, or nothing to recall that would spark that interest.
Now, I don't know whether this is a video we're hearing, but I just heard what sounded like a couple of gunshots there. Is that live, or do you think that's on the video that we're looking at?
That's probably on the video. Like I said, in about the last hour, there's only been maybe a handful of shots. So.
But you also have power at your house. You have electricity there, right? They haven't shut off the electricity in the neighborhood?
No, but we did get a call that said that the water was shut off.
Can you hear SWAT teams there trying to negotiate, do anything? Are you able to hear any more on loudspeakers?
I haven't heard anything on a loudspeaker other than the initial, start of all this. There was a SWAT truck in their backyard. They've since come back out. But like I said, they pushed the perimeter back, so there's nothing going on in our backyard at the moment. But our fence is all tore up. I mean, everything's tore to pieces.
And Tyler, we're hearing that numerous law enforcement personnel were wounded. Have you gotten any sense whatsoever specifically how many law enforcement officers you may have seen that may be wounded?
Well, there's a video of one of the officers. They were dragging him by his arms through the house. He didn't look too injured, but I couldn't tell if he was shot or just injured himself, maybe jumping the fence.
Do you feel safe? Like, did they offer to get you out of there? Did you want to stay? How did that conversation go?
We felt safe with them here. They did not offer to evacuate us, but they did tell us to hunker down in the bathroom.
Have they given you any sense whatsoever when you can come outside at all, or are you being told to stay in there until they come back and tell you that it's safe?
Yeah, they haven't said much. They're not giving us much information, but most of the things I've heard have just been over the radio while they've been in the house.
Tyler Wilson lives right near where all of this has unfolded this afternoon. Tyler, if you can hang on the phone for me for just 1 second, please. We also have a couple of other interviews from a couple other witnesses who are in this area. So I'd like to hear those if we can. And then, Tyler, if you're still with us, see if it kind of lines up with everything that you've heard today. Let's listen to those interviews.
It's a lot of emotions going on. You know, you could tell a lot of people scared, a lot of people, you know, it's like I live in this neighborhood for 10 years, never saw this, never thought it can even happen.
We heard, like he said, like more than 100 gunshots, like boom, 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 boom. And we were like, hey, you know what? We better take off home because it seems like really, really dangerous.
Again, a couple people who live in that community. I don't know, Tyler, if you could hear that or not, I'm not positive, but basically one of the people in the neighborhood saying, hey, family neighborhood, lived here for 10 years, nothing like this thing has happened like we're seeing here today. Another witness saying they heard what they felt like was 100 gunshots go off at the very beginning of all of this. Does that sort of line up with what, you know, you witnessed?
Oh, yeah, at least 100 gunshots.
Wow. How many police officers or law enforcement officers would you have seen since this incident first started? And, well, let me back up just a little bit, Tyler. About what time was it when these officers came to your house when you first heard these gunshots?
This started, I think, a little before 1:30, if I recall. I'll have to go back and timestamp that. But in an eye shot, I've seen at least probably 50 to 75 officers just running through our backyards.
Wow. Now, you don't actually live on Galway Drive there. You live on a street right behind that, or exactly which street do you live on?
Yep. So, like I said, there's 3 backyards that come to an adjacent point, and it's one of the backyards. So once this is all over, I'll be able to walk right back there and see exactly what's happened in the house that it happened at.
Can you describe what that house looks like, or what type of house it is? Is it a ranch? Is it a 2-story home? How would you characterize it?
It's one of those staple East Charlotte homes where it's got the 2 stories on one side and the little living room on the left side. It's one of those staple East Charlotte houses that you see all over.
Yeah, sort of like a split level house.
Yep, one of those.
Do you feel safe right now, Tyler?
Yeah, I feel safe. Like I said, I haven't heard many shots within the last hour, so I'm not sure what's going on right now. I don't hear anything over a loudspeaker.
Tyler Wilson lives in this neighborhood. Tyler, we appreciate you jumping on the phone with us to share what you saw, a frightening situation. As he heard earlier this afternoon, around 1:30 this afternoon, when that fugitive task force arrived on scene and attempted to bring someone out of that home, only to be greeted with dozens of shots, gunfire erupting in that neighborhood, and numerous officers, has been told by CMPD, have been wounded in all of this. Tyler, be safe. Keep in touch, okay, buddy?
Thank you. Y'all take care.
Thank you. Yes, stay safe. And again, if you are just joining us here at 23 minutes before 4 o'clock, just to let you know, around 1:30 this afternoon, a situation there in East Charlotte along Galway Drive that U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, which is comprised of several agencies, was attempting to serve a warrant there in the 5000 block of Galway Drive when shots were fired. Multiple law enforcement officers have been wounded. We don't know what the situation is with the person who started this gunfire and exactly how many. Tyler was saying that he believed there was one suspect, one person who was shot and killed, apparently. That's not been confirmed, though.
Right.
It's not, we can't say exactly what has happened, but his description of it was that he saw one person lying in the front yard there, or the yard of that home there, and that there was another person who was still inside the home, a 2-level, split-level type of house there in this residential neighborhood, but one person still inside that home who was firing shots.
Yeah, and obviously, again, still active situation. SWAT team is on hand. Tyler telling us, though, he hasn't heard very many gunshots of late. So Hopefully that is some good news that we can get some resolution to this and put an end to this. And if there are still any wounded in that area, that we can get them the medical care that they need. As we mentioned earlier today, obviously with the roads being all shut down, they were ready to act quickly to get people to the hospitals just as quickly as they can. And that has created a situation throughout the city of Charlotte today with some of the traffic. But certainly East Charlotte is still the place to avoid right now in this neighborhood. As described by so many people, everyone we keep talking to, we described it on the air before that, you know, that this was just a typical old school Charlotte neighborhood, East Charlotte in this particular case, with a lot of the same you know, things that we have in all of our neighborhoods. This is something completely out of the norm. You can see some CMS impacts with this as well, John. We got 2 schools now on full lockdown.
Devonshire Elementary School and Briarwood Academy are on lockdown right now, so the students are still there. And of course, this is because of the situation there in that area there. The students will not be dismissed until the all clear is given. And parents, your children are safe right now. The schools are on lockdown. I know that you probably are interested in perhaps going over to the school early or whatever, but that's going to be a tough situation simply because of the traffic situation around there in that area, and just because they're saying once again that they will not dismiss the students until the all clear is given, and we have not heard that as of yet. But Jamie, as you were saying, Tyler was talking, he hasn't heard any gunfire as of late apparently.
Let's hope that is the trend that continues. Our Nick Oxner is nearby. He's at the staging area where we expect at some point a news conference today. Nick, I know you've been burning up the phones as well, working your sources. Do you have any new information?
Yeah, Jamie, the actual new information we have here at the CMPD media staging area is actually a look closer to the scene. We're again here at the staging area quite a ways away, so we can't see anything from the parking lot where we are. But photojournalist Allison Fields, that I've been with here all afternoon, photojournalist Kevin Marlowe, we've got the drone up in the sky. Giving us the first real bird's eye view that we've been able to give you of that scene that we were just hearing the neighbor describe for you guys. We know that, of course, this started with the U.S. Marshal Task Force, Fugitive Task Force, trying to execute a warrant. We know there's now obviously multiple agencies. We've seen Highway Patrol drive by us with their lights and sirens. We know CMPD's on scene. We know other federal agencies coming to the scene as well. But this is that live picture from our drone up over the scene right now. You see the street just flooded with cars with lights and sirens on there. And again, we're using the drone to give you this look because the media staging area quite a ways away from where everything's playing out, quite a ways away from those houses where you just heard that neighbor on the phone with Jamie and John there. The reason that we're at the staging area so far away is because CMPD tells us this is still an active scene, and an active scene that within the last hour, less than a past hour, has included exchanging gunfire between, we think, suspects and law enforcement. So again, this is what we're looking at, a live picture from our drone right now. This is in, again, that 5,000 block of Galway, just East Charlotte, kind of Plaza Shamrock area, where the media staging area is off the plaza itself here in the parking lot of a Family Dollar. Again, though, we don't have a ton of new updates. The updates we're getting from police are via Twitter or X, and that's because the scene very much active and ongoing. While we're getting this view, while we're hearing from neighbors, we're also now starting to hear from some of our elected officials. We've heard from Congresswoman Alma Adams, who says she's monitoring the situation. We've heard from Governor Roy Cooper, who posted on X that he's also been in touch with law enforcement. Tom Tillis's office also weighing in. Folks saying they're in touch with law enforcement, they're in touch with the mayor's office. So now this is starting to get the attention of state and national leaders as well. We're going to continue monitoring at the scene, send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thanks a lot, Nick. And you can see from that drone video right there, Jamie, this is a very, this is an older neighborhood, very mature. You can see all those huge trees in the neighborhood there too. So again, as Tyler Wilson, who lives there, was telling us, normally a very quiet neighborhood. He'd said he didn't really know the neighbors who lived in this home where this is all taking place, but they'd had some parties that he noted were going on. He said he has heard gunfire in the neighborhood at times, but nothing serious. Nothing like this whatsoever.
We are getting word that those lockdowns you were just talking about with CMS have been lifted. So presumably those kids, if you're waiting for your child to come home, hopefully they'll be on their way very soon. So again, those have now been lifted. Again, live pictures here on the ground now from the scene right now where you can see just a row of CMPD cruisers. You see a Charlotte fire truck right there at the forefront of that picture as well. Way in the background, if you look kind of right next to the telephone pole on the left side of your screen, you will see medic is back there as well. But at least at this point, CMPD has given the clear as far as getting those kids out of this area that were impacted and locked down and unable to move at this point. So those kids will at least be able to get home and out of this area. So that is a good news there as we watch 3 of the officers make their way back up the street here this afternoon.
And as Nick was just telling us a moment ago, Jamie, that the governor has been in touch with law enforcement officials. Here's what he wrote specifically on X. He says, I am in contact with law enforcement concerning the tragic shooting in the Charlotte area, and we have offered state resources to help. That's Governor Roy Cooper, North Carolina, who has offered the help there, being made aware of the situation, as are other state officials, including Congresswoman Alma Adams, Senator Tom Tillis, all in touch with law enforcement here in the Charlotte area.
All waiting for more information, right, as to what exactly has happened here this afternoon. We have been mentioning the hospitals and the roads being closed to those hospitals so we could get any of the wounded there just as quickly as possible. WBTV anchor Siobhan Bryan is live at Novant right now. Siobhan, tell us what you're seeing.
Jamie, John, it's a hectic scene out here. I want to step out of frame and immediately just show you the scene. This is just part of it. Even a block down the way, there are several CMPD officers standing in the roadway directing traffic. There are a lot of them on the side of the road talking with one another, others, as you see here, in the middle of the roadway. But I will tell you, before I was here at Novant, I was actually at CMC, and even blocks away from CMC, the traffic was thick. For blocks, you could see that there was something going on, definitely a byproduct of those road closures. You definitely saw a number of the roads closed off outside CMC. Just the drive from CMC to Novant, usually a 5 to 7 minute drive, it's only a mile away, took about 15 to 20 minutes, just showing you that if you have any plans of commuting through this area, it is a hectic area, and avoid it if you can. But again, you were talking about elected officials. Nick was talking about elected officials that are starting to weigh in on this situation. Mayor Lyles released a statement just minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, saying, quote, I am deeply saddened by the shooting that occurred involving Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officers and U.S. Marshals. I ask that all Charlotteans keep them, the other injured officers, and their families in your thoughts and prayers during this incredibly difficult time. Again, you just heard Chief Investigative Reporter Nick Oxner talking about Senator Tom Tillis, the governor, and several others that are getting word of this and responding to it. But again, for fellow Charlotteans, fellow Charlotte residents in this community, avoid the roadways if you can anywhere near CMC or Novant. Both hospitals are understandably overwhelmed. Another ambulance just whizzed past us just minutes before you guys came and talked to me. So we're telling you that both CMC and Novant, the crews are strained. CMPD is extremely busy. The roads are blocked for several different byproducts. It took a while for me to get here. A lot of side roads had to be taken just to even make it out here. So it's definitely a good time as we get further into the evening commute hours to stay indoors if you can, and to definitely avoid this area if possible. But again, we're continuing to get the very latest information, or I'm going to stay here outside of Novant and see anything that happens outside the ER here. But of course, we'll keep you in touch. But live outside of Novant, I'm Siobhan Bryan, WBTV, on your side, guys.
All right, thanks a lot, Siobhan. Some good information there. And you can see a lot of police officers on the scene outside the hospital there, and officers who may not be involved with the situation on Galway Drive, or who may not be involved in the traffic there. There will be other officers at the hospitals to show their support for their fellow officers who may have been hurt in this situation.
If you're not familiar with that area, Midtown, Elizabeth, Dilworth, I mean, it's snarled traffic a lot of the times anyway. So
On
you
the
can,
best day.
Yeah, exactly. So now you've got all of this just compounding that. So if you have no business being down there, you don't have any, or something you can put off, just do that and do it another day, because it's not going to be a fun trip down in that area right now. Again, live pictures here from the scene. It is still an active scene. CMPD tweeting on X, or posting on X a short time ago, that the threat is isolated to the area of the 5,000 block of Galway Drive. We ask that residents in the neighborhood continue to shelter in place. Please continue to avoid the area. So they feel like they've got that perimeter, I guess, in close enough now. As we mentioned, the CMS schools that were in that area were able to lift that lockdown and get those kids out of there. So that is some good news here right now. But you can see, again, just the response that we have seen here this afternoon to East Charlotte. This is all unfolding around 1:30 this afternoon. So now just a little more than 2 hours ago that all of this began to unfold. And if you were anywhere near the uptown towards East Charlotte, you saw the response. You saw it yourself. You saw the sirens and everyone running towards either the hospitals or to this scene in East Charlotte. And there's the evidence from the live picture that we saw a moment ago. And that's the post that I was just referencing a moment ago, that again, they feel like they have this in that area, sort of isolated, but it's active. Stay away from it right now.
All right, we have gotten a statement from Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyles, and here's what she says. I am deeply saddened by the shooting that occurred that involved Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officers and U.S. Marshals today. I ask that all Charlotteans keep them, the other injured officers, and their families in your thoughts and prayers during this incredibly difficult time. So that is Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyles posting a statement right now in regard to the situation that's happening out there. We've just heard from Governor Roy Cooper, who says state resources are being made available to Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police and other law enforcement agencies to help in this situation here. We don't know exactly what Tom Tillis has said specifically, but Senator Tom Tillis has also said that he is monitoring the situation, as is Congresswoman Alma Adams, who represents part of Mecklenburg County here.
I can read just Senator Tillis's post just a moment ago, where he said, an attack in Charlotte on our brave law enforcement officers who swore an oath to protect and serve us all. Susan and I are praying for everyone's safety. Susan, of course, is the wife of Senator Tom Tillis, responding, as John was just mentioning, to what we have seen here this afternoon. The information is still pretty thin at this point as to the extent of what we're dealing with today, only being described as numerous law enforcement officers shot this afternoon. Some